channel, and I want to reach out to all of you out there, see how all of you are doing. I hope you were able to get out in nature somewhere and at least take a walk or at least to get out. And Starlight wasn't able to take her hike. It actually started raining around that time that would have been taking a short hike today. But that is okay. I had plenty to do here. As you see, I've been working on a new background. And so I hope you like the butterflies. Starlight loves butterflies. I have these babies all around in my apartment. So I said, hey, and I got these brand new lights just for all of you guys. So I hope you enjoy my new background. For now, I will be having other backgrounds, but I have to work on that yet. So anyway, if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And if you want to find my channel, you can on YouTube at Starlight, and that's Kathy with a K, Dingman. And there's a lot of Starlights out there, I'll have to say. Yep. And I have a very popular name. Speaking of that name of Starlight, it's so funny. When I was learning how to have a YouTube channel, there was a guy that was helping me out, and I can't remember his name, but I did subscribe to his YouTube channel. And he told me, he goes, when you start a YouTube channel, that you got to come up with a name for your YouTube channel, whether you use your own name, like my name, Kathy Dingman, or create a name for your channel. And he goes, use any name but Starlight. And I laughed out loud. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I didn't listen to him one bit at all. I didn't even know why he said that. I was like, ain't that funny? Of all the names that he told me not to use, I used. So he's the kind of guy that actually goes and watches a lot of YouTubers out there, and he might reach out to somebody, or and try to give them help, or there's a lot of people that will go to him and say, hey, I started a YouTube channel, I need some help. So he's the kind of guy that will go give them advice and tell them all the different things that they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. And so that's the guy, but I can't remember his name. So anyway, here I am, Starlight. So anyway, today I gotta, I'm like sitting here. Okay, I just got done doing a video, so I have a whole list of titles and names that I wanted to do a new video on, and I got a little distracted on what video I was going to make. So I had to double check. And before I get started, I just want to really reach out to you. Make sure you're taking really good care of yourself. Make sure you're loving yourself like you should. Be gentle. God is not there with a hammer over your head. Not like some people will make you think. So really be gentle to yourself and, others out there, like your kids, your wife, your husband, the strangers out on the street, the homeless people. Be sweet. Really, you got to be sweet to those people. A lot of people treat them like crap. I've seen it left and right all over through my life. So really, if you never know where God is and what God is doing, and that person, whether they're homeless or not, or whoever, they might have a message for you. And you might be thinking, what could a homeless person say to you? Well, you'd be surprised. Some of those people have gone through some shit, and they know some stuff that could be the answer that you've been looking for. But if you treat them like crap, you're never going to know what kind of wisdom they possibly could have. So really respect those people and give them a helping hand. I'm always looking to help those people out. So anyway, now I can do my introduction here like I am. You can like this video. You can give it a thumbs up. You can share it with your friend, family, or your pet, like your dog or cat. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can leave a message down below. And don't forget that notification bell. That way you do not miss a thing. And today I wanted to reach out to all of you out there. And, I heard this statement throughout my whole life, and I have to say I agree to it. And it is tough to agree to some things when you're like, well, it is really true, actually. And, you clicked on this video, so you already know what the name of this video is. So anyway, is you, me, I am my worst enemy, and you are your worst enemy. A lot of times, I got so many titles over here, so I got some titles that some of them are going to kind of remind me of other titles that videos that I want to work on, is just like Adam and Eve when they started out. What did Eve do after, she was told by God, not to take of the fruit of the forbidden fruit on the tree of knowledge and wisdom. And she didn't listen. She disobeyed God, didn't she? It would have to be Eve. Adam, he never does anything wrong, but Eve had to do it. But it is kind of funny how that story goes with Eve, where, Eve gets, a lot of name calling because she took of the fruit, when God told her not to. But really, if you were Eve or if you were Adam, we all would have done the same thing. And then, she blamed it on the serpent and said, oh, God, it's because of the serpent. He beguiled me. And because of him, I did take of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and I did take and bite, and yes, now, her eyes were opened up, to what is good and bad, so, and that's, and then Adam, he said, well, God, it's because you gave me Eve as my wife, blame. They both kind of blame God, for, hey, really, because God did create, he created everything. So where did the serpent come from, But, God already knew when he created Eve, and he already knew that when he created Adam, he's the God of the living, of everything. He's the creator. He knew they were going to do this, and so Eve, once she realized that she was naked, she was trying to make clothes, and that's when God kind of caught her, well, actually, not that he caught her, he already knew. He knew. And so she was trying to cover her nakedness, which, that's why, there's no shame in being naked. Starlight's not ashamed of being naked. If I, soon I'll be out at one of those nude beaches, I'm glad they actually I want a full body tan. I am not that girl that goes out to a tanning booth. I don't trust those things. I don't believe those. I'd rather have the natural sunlight out there instead of getting in one of those boxes. I would not want to be in one of those boxes. I did watch a movie on one of those. I was like, we're good. And it's free. You just go out and go to a nude beach unless you have a private location where you live, where you can just hey, I'm just laying out here in my backyard naked. So, a lot of people, there's some people out there that are ashamed of their bodies, and that's not really the way God, God had us naked in the beginning of time, so, don't be ashamed of your body and, of what you look like. And when you go out to a nude beach, just the Starlight will let you know there's all different body types out there. It's not what I thought. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of, beautiful people out there. There was a lot of beautiful people, but there was all different ages, sizes and race, all kinds. There was everybody and anybody out there. So it was a big eye-opener for me. And there's no race anyway. I'm just saying that because that's how people understand things these days. But anyway, we are our worst enemy, and I really wanted to make this video. It's not a movie, not quite yet. Starlight has, I've always wanted to be in a movie. So yeah, I am the star. So yeah, it's just like I realize that a lot of times what happens, maybe this happens to you, is that we kind of fall in that category of Adam and Eve. Why do you do what you do? Well, because if this didn't happen to me when I was a kid, it caused me to do this, and then like a chain of events that happened after that, and then if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have done that. But because that happened to me, and we have so many excuses of why we did what we did, where God gave us a free will, and He still has. We do still have a free will, and how's your voices in your head? I do know some people, they do hear voices in their head, and like my doctor, I've gone to my doctor, and my therapist or my doctor would say, "Are you hearing any voices in your head?" And because they were trying to figure out how to label me before when I was having a spiritual awakening, and I'm like, no, I'm just hearing my own thoughts. It's all they are, they're my own thoughts. But then I realized that they are not my own thoughts. So recently, this is the reason why I wanted to come up with this video here, is recently, I've been learning that my thoughts are not my own, and your emotions, don't get all strung up about all that stuff. And the emotions and your thoughts, where, it's easy for me to say this, but I'll tell you, when I have a down day, and yeah, I do have a down day, do you? Honestly, can you be honest? Do you have a day that maybe you're not feeling your whole 100%? There's some people out there, they might claim that, every day there's sunshine, but, we all have days eventually, where the universe might test us out one day, might, something, like a chain of reaction where somebody might do something to us, how do you react? Are you in the flesh at that time? And you might not know what that means. Do you get upset? Do you kind of maybe somebody cut you off and driving, and you had a beautiful day and you're driving, and then somebody cuts you off, you almost get in an accident, and you're like, you blankety blank, everybody does have their days. We all have areas to grow, and there are people out there that, they really act like that nothing ever phases them, and that they, are invisible, where, the universe will test us out at times, and I have been definitely tested lately. I have, and it's a reality, have you ever had a reality check? Oh, I just did. I just had a reality check, and I'll tell you what, is you really do. You got to be cautious of those things that you call thoughts in your head. They're not all yours. Those thoughts are not yours. You might think that they are your thoughts. They might be connected to things that you've gone through in your life. There's times I get thoughts in my head, and I'm like last night when I was in bed trying to sleep all night, like, what the heck? I was like, man, there is nothing negative. It just was a bunch of goofy stuff, and my imagination was going a little out there. I'm like, oh, I just wanted to sleep. I went to bed super early last night because I'm like, I need to take care of myself. My body is tired. I need to rest now. And even though I've been going to bed really late, super late, I've been wanting to get more sleep at night so I can get fully charged for the morning. So I did. I had a lot of crazy stuff going on in my headspace. I'm like, what the heck? Those are not all my thoughts. It's one of those times where you're laying in bed, you're just laying there, and you're awake, but it's almost like you're dreaming. You're actually, you're awake, but you can actually have dreams being awake. You're aware that you're awake, but you're actually in a dream state, but you're like, I'm awake, but then you're just visualizing all this crazy stuff. It's like, what the heck? So you want to really, when a thought comes on your mind, is that don't really pay a whole lot of attention to those babies. There's times that we're going to get deceived. We rub elbows against each other out out in public somewhere. I have been forgetting to wear my stones with me. I normally bring stones or crystals with me when I go, and they're normally in my pockets. But sometimes I wear pants that don't, like today, I'm wearing pants with no pockets. So I couldn't bring them with me, and a lot of times I do forget to bring them with me. So we do. When we go out in public, we can pick up other people's energies. They could be going through depression. They might think that they're not worthy enough, and then we're rubbing elbows. You go to the store, you get in line, and you're standing next to somebody. I was sitting next to somebody today, like a chair length behind, next to each other or whatever. Where there's going to be times that you're going to, you're going to get fooled by, like what you call your thoughts. You're going to have a thought, and Starlight does this a lot. Why did this person say that? Why, and it's not really a good thing to do that. Like what I'm realizing right now is that, sometimes things happen, and then we got to be the investigator and find out who's messing around with us and why did they do this, and how come they, and that's what I've been going through. I'm like, holy cow, so I'm learning a lot really about your thoughts, and that somebody, like there could be a miscommunication somewhere, and you're like, why are they treating me like this? And it has been one thing after another lately that I've been going through with different people, whether I know them or not, and how do you react? You'd be like, why are they, treat me, you're investigating the whole thing, making sure you don't miss anything. And you know what? You can easily miss something. You might think that you got it all figured out and that, you covered everything, like a detective, and that's why even detectives, even cops screw up. They miss some things sometimes. They're like, well, we checked this, however they're trained. And then there's people that get sent to prison because they didn't do their job right, or they didn't have all the facts, but they still sent them there, And that happens time and time over and over again. Or they let somebody, get free, and where they were guilty, one way or another. Where even cops messed up, and where even pastors, they might think that they know all their sheep out in their, in their church. Oh yeah, I got this figured out. I'm going to try to help this person out. And, they could be off, but then somebody else gets the help that they need instead of the person that they were directing it to. So sometimes it happens. Sometimes people want to help people out, and they're like, I want to help that person right there today. That's the one I want to help out. But then they might give a message to that person, but that person doesn't respond to the message, but other people do. Isn't that weird? Where you got to really be cautious of your thoughts and understand that those thoughts are not your own. And, like I've been learning, like, different videos that I do watch, I watch different YouTube videos. So a lot of people are saying the same information. And that's what I like to do, is like to watch different YouTubers out there and see if things line up, like even with my numbers, when I get numbers to read my dreams, then to see if other people are talking about the same stuff, that kind of like, okay, this person is saying that. And, that's awfully weird. A lot of the same people, they're on the spiritual journey and they're talking the same stuff about your thoughts are not your own. Where did these people come up with this stuff? I always thought my thoughts were my own. So have I been hearing voices my whole life? So, like I said recently, I thought, somebody had a problem with me, or that they were ignoring me, that, and I was like, what did I ever do to them? How come they're, and that's why it is. It could really, it could ruin relationships. It really can. And if you are quick, I am not like this, though. I'm actually slow on some things, where if you're the type of person that likes to run your mouth and say what you got to say and just hurry up and get it out of your system, say, hey, Like I called you, like a few times, and you never answered the phone. Like do you got some problem with me? And I'm not saying this happened to me. I'm just using this as an example. And how do you know what's going on with their phone? All kinds of things could be going on in their life why they didn't get back in touch with you. And we get hurt so easily. Some people act like they're so tough and they're so strong, but we're all sensitive. Guys, too. It's not just the females that are emotional. Guys are. They put that big shield up in front like they are brave and strong and tough. It's funny. The other day, I love when I see some funny stuff out in public, but, here I seen a guy out in town. I don't know who he is, a city guy, and he's got tattoos on, he's bald, and he's walking in this one centerpiece that they have in town, and I'm just kind of driving up to the red light, and sometimes it's so funny, a bug could land on you, like, and that's exactly what happened to the guy, like a bug, a little bug could scare people, like, like it's a bug, you're way bigger than that bug. So it is so funny. Like the guy probably didn't even know that Starlight was watching him. Not that I was checking him out. It just is so funny that how people react to certain things. So how do you respond to people? Like if maybe somebody doesn't call you back right away, and you wanted to talk to them, and this happens a lot. Like a lot of people go through this, and they don't respond, and you're like. And then your imagination gets carried away, doesn't it? It freaking, like, then you're like, did I do something to them? Like, what's taking them so long? Normally they always call me right away. What if they're going through something? Like, you might try to call somebody up and you know that they're not at work. And you're like, oh, this is a good time. I really got something to tell them or talk to them about. And then they don't answer the phone. How do you respond? How do you react to that? So we can actually be our worst enemy. A lot of times we're blaming it on other people why we do what we do to justify, I did that because of this. I did this. I did that thing there the other day because somebody triggered me and I reacted. But how did you react? Did you react the right way? Or, and then later on, then you realize, you didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle. You didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle. This happened to me just not too long ago. I didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle. I could have really hurt somebody's feelings. I saved myself though. I could have made a real big mess out of something. But, I caught myself and, I had to go back to that person and say, hey, I am sorry. Cause, I let that thought control my actions, really. I did. I'm not the type of person that's going to get in somebody's face, but I'm going to be like, I might say something a little off, where it might not go very well, and then they might get that message and say, what is up with her? Why is she behaving this way? And, so you can be your worst enemy out there, and it is, so sometimes we think we know everything and we want to really be, sometimes we think we're smarter at days, days you might think you're really smart and you're a great detective, even in relationships, you might think somebody's cheating on you. How many times does that happen? You're like, are they cheating on me or what? Because you start noticing things that change, and that's normally what gets your attention. You're like, something's different. Something's not the same. They might change up and do something different. And, that's why you got to really be careful because you can respond in the wrong way or falsely accuse them or, say, like the wrong, like all kinds of stuff that you can do wrong that could mess up that relationship where, like with a relationship, you got to trust each other. If you don't trust that person you're with, then you really don't have a really good, healthy relationship. So trust is like really like a foundation of your relationship, and communication, without being honest to each other and open, and communicate, you're not going to have a really good foundation of that relationship, because without trusting each other and communicating, how are you going to make it through, like a marriage or any of that stuff? So those are really things that you got to really consider as far as that, like at your work and your job or whatever, you gotta, sometimes things happen there with people with their work, like where you could get upset with your boss for some reason or another, where you might, think you know it all, and, like totally react the wrong way and could get fired at a job, and then later on you find out that what you thought was not the real deal. So really be cautious of your thoughts, because those are not your own, and how you react, because you can mess up like you might be friends with somebody, and you might not even be the, they say girlfriend, boyfriends, but you might not even get to that next level, because if you respond the wrong way, they might reject you, and there's people that get hurt from the past, and they build up a wall, and if you do certain things, they might not want anything to do with you. I know I have certain things in my life, that I call red flags. If I see a red flag on certain things, it's like, I don't have a red flag right here. Is that could be an indicator that, hey, this is not going to work. That we are not going to work as a couple. Because a red flag came up, and like lying. Like if I was friends with somebody and I thought they were lying to me, that is a definite red flag. Or if they can't communicate with me, and that is a red flag. If they can't communicate with me, or if they can't, there's things that happen with couples and stuff. If they can't forgive me, like where they can't forgive me, how is that going to work? If they can't forgive me that I made, I did something wrong and I admitted to it, but they're like, no, I can't forgive you. So how do you react in situations or relationships, or your family, or your brother, sister, mom, anybody? So I had three things recently that did happen where, one, I could, I saved myself, though. I thought somebody disliked, befriended me, just got rid of me as a friend. I'm thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. Not anything that wrong, I was just checking, see what is it that I could have possibly did wrong. So then I realized, I said, well, you know what, I checked myself. I said, I didn't do anything wrong. Why, why did they befriend me? They just rejected me as a friend? Really, Starlight? You're rejecting Starlight as a friend? Why? Why did they actually, not even want me to be a friend? I thought we were on the same page, and it's kind of funny. That person didn't reject Starlight at all. So here I thought that I was thinking, well, it's not me. I'm not the one that has the problem. It's them. They're the ones that have the problem. But you know what? I realized that it was me that had the problem. It wasn't them at all. And I realized that they did not try to reject my friendship. I didn't realize that their name disappeared, and it's kind of weird that they were busy doing something, and that's why it kind of wasn't there when I didn't see their name. And I was like, oh, because Starlight loves people, I really do. And but that's why I'm saying is that we can be our worst enemies, really, by the way we respond to other people. Really, it's gonna, it's not what people do to you, it's how do you respond back, you got to really be not so quick to jump and run your mouth, or hurry up and give them a text message, or text message is the worst, period. It's best, like I said, how to communicate to, like in relationships, really, you need to learn how to communicate with people and not to be so quick to hurry up and give them a call and or send them a nasty message on your phone or computer, and say, what the heck did I do to you, and blah, 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 and then they call you up because they are a true friend and they say, hey, there was a death in our family. Our family has been mourning for days now because, we just lost our grandma. That's why I didn't get back in touch with you. I have been mourning because, I just lost my grandma. It had, why did you send that horrible message on my phone for? And I'm just using this as an example, but I am, you really do. You got to really be careful of how you respond to people. Because what you thought you had as a friend, you can end up losing it because you got to understand your thoughts are not your own. And I tell you, it's a twister. It really is. So there's times I am tested, where to see how Starlight's going to respond. Also, there's so many things how we respond, like financially wise, that's why it's so important. Like if you're working for a company, if you work your ass off and you're a good hard worker, you don't miss any time, and if you do, you're sick or your car, those are real good reasons why you can't make it to work. And some places, some people say, why didn't you take a taxi? Depending on where you live, how far away do you live? I mean, sometimes you can't take a bus to get to work, or maybe you don't know how the bus route works, so you don't want to, lose your cool at work, because even your boss could be having a day, and you could get fired if you say the wrong thing. You might have it wrong, if somebody's having a bad day, you don't want to say something the wrong way, so, like I said, I recently had 3 things lately, boom, 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 where the universe is trying to show me my thoughts are not my own. We rub up against other people out in public, and you really got to think twice of how you are responding back to people. And it could really mess things up for you, so you got to understand is don't blame everybody else for why you do what you do. Look at yourself in the mirror. Really look at, how do you respond? Don't be like Adam and Eve, blaming it on, really it's kind of like it goes back on blaming it on God, because God created the serpent, God created Eve, they were playing the blame game, playing that blame game out, and blaming it on other people, why they did whatever, I know there's sometimes that you might go through some horrible stuff like I did, when I was younger. It's just that you gotta, you can get in trouble with some of that stuff. You'd be like, I did that because of this. There's, where there's people that get angry and they don't fix the problem and they take their anger out on other people. There's guys, mainly this happens with guys, not really women do this, but where guys rape women, because they're not really thinking right, there's no reason for men raping women, but that still happens today, where they have all, why did they rape the woman? Why did they do it? Why did the guy, touch a kid? A lot of times it's the guys touching the kids, but there's women that do that too. Why? Why do they do that? And they could say, well, when I was a kid, it happened to me. Well, you don't have to go, go and do that to somebody else's kids or your own, so you got to really think of, why you do what you do, what causes you to react the way you do, and really if you can really work on your thoughts, not to try to control them, but like that they're like a passing cloud. This is what I hear over and over again. It's not easy. It does take time. So really understand that your thoughts are not your own. Really, because sometimes, like it's almost like the devil is in your head, like, and, trying to trip you up, like I have gone through that last few times here, and I had some close calls, of how I could have reacted, and I am grateful, I didn't react how I could have reacted, you know, so I do love you, and I want you to really get help, and you got to really understand it. It's a lot of times it's us. It's not, stop pointing the finger at everybody else, and really look at, work on yourself, and realize that we gotta work on ourselves. And our imaginations can go wild and crazy. A lot of times we think we know, we think we got to figure it out, and then later on you might find out, you were absolutely wrong. You were totally off. You thought you had all the pieces, but you didn't. You gotta, that's why you gotta just let things go, let them go. Just realize that they are tests, like you're being tested a lot to see how you're gonna respond. And you want to respond the right way, So anyway, I do love all of you, and I really hope you enjoy this video. I hope you love my butterflies. I actually am liking it more. I do want maybe a couple more, like I was trying to do this. And anyway, I do love all of you. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can share it. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can ring the notification bell. And you can leave a message down below. Plus, you can leave a message at Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook at Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. So anyway, I do love all of you. Really, when a thought comes, just observe that thought. And I know the emotions, they will be coming after that. That's what you gotta, don't try to run away from it. And it's hard. I'm still working on that one. I'm very sensitive. I got a beautiful big heart, where, you want to actually just observe those emotions, and feel them out a little bit. Don't be afraid of them. Don't try to, close them out on you, because they're just going to come back up again. So I do. I love all of you. This is Starlight. Love and light.